Welcome to the Better Divorce podcast, everyone. You already know who I am, but I want you to know who Kathy Casa is. She's the CEO of Dynamis Wellness. Kathy is an entrepreneur and an ERYT 500, just like I am, and a transformational coach. I'm not one of those so much. And a mom to two gorgeous kids who credits her toxic divorce for helping her find her power and purpose. And being a yoga teacher, isn't it funny that she hated yoga when she first tried it and swore she'd never do it again? And despite her outward appearances, she really is a homebody and requires a lot of solo time. And so do I. And her favorite thing to do is listening to inspiring books while ironing bed linens. We have so much in common, Kathy. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
You are so welcome. So seeing that the listeners here on the Better Divorce podcast are typically women between the ages of 30 and 60 who are either contemplating divorce. God bless you, everyone. Wrapping you in my love. I hope you can feel it. And going through it in the middle of the darn nightmare. And yes, a few on the back end saying, now what? And my obsession, commitment, dedication to yoga way back in 1994, when I was just beginning to think about my marriage feeling like a pair of flip-flops that weren't mine, and I had to wear them anyway, much like when you get out of one of those yoga classes in a large studio in the summer and everyone is wearing black flip-flops. And most people are like a size 7 or an 8 and they all look the same. And you just put on the wrong pair and you immediately know right away, these aren't mine. And you desperately search for yours. And you may find them, you may not, depending on how many people went to that particular class, but you can immediately tell when something doesn't fit. And that's going to be the focus of our interview today. So let's start at your beginning. Where did you find yoga? What was your awakening?
Ironically enough, it was because I needed to get out of the house because I felt ill at ease. I had new surroundings and I couldn't find my bearings, even in my marriage. And a friend suggested we go. And it was an Ashtanga class. It was one of those very, very intense classes with teachers who had just come from India and had just studied with Patabi Joyce. And
So there were a lot of back bends.
It was intense beyond anything. And this was Miami in 1999 in the summer. And it was just sweat. and I'm a New Yorker, so it was very out of my comfort zone. And after a month, because I told myself I'd stick it out for a month, my friend quit, the friend who urged me to go, and I could not stop. I had to keep going. I felt empowered within that month. And I had no idea back then how significant the practice and the study and the application would become in my life. But it really has been the backbone of my entire adult life.
I had a similar moment where I stumbled upon a yoga class at my son's preschool. I didn't know what it was, but they were all laying down on the floor. And this was the South Shore Natural Science Center. So there were like dead taxidermed animals on the wall, which seemed a little weird, but it's the science center. You're with me, right? And I'm thinking, why the hell are they laying down on the ground staring at the dead animals? Like, what is wrong with these people? Now, I had been a ballerina. I grew up in a ballet studio where you never let them see you sweat. The show must go on. You always have to wear a smile. It's like a cheerleader, almost like that. Go team with the pom-poms, you know? And here are these people who are like disheveled. They didn't give a damn what their hair looked like. Makeup, what's that? Some of them were in sweatpants. Some of them were scantily clad in little shorts and tank tops. Other had on perfect little, we didn't know what Lululemon was back then, but Lycra. And it was just like this freeing experience for me to look at because I didn't understand what they were doing, but I wanted it because they looked so happy and they looked so at peace. They looked so content and I was jealous. It was like that scene when Meg Ryan says, I'll have what she's having. Well, Meg Ryan doesn't say that. The other lady says it, but you know what I'm saying. And I got hooked because I no longer had to care what I looked like or what I was doing, if I was doing it right or I was doing it wrong, other than hurting myself. And like dancers are so disciplined. Like I wanted it to hurt because, it's dance. It's supposed to hurt. Nothing feels good. I had blisters on my feet for 18 years. So it felt so liberating to feel a sense of freedom in my mind and not think at the end of class for an hour and a half, some of these really intense classes. I go to Bikram still. I know it's not called that anymore, but 26-2 or whatever the heck it's called. And for 90 minutes in a room that's 120, I do not think about anything but surviving. That's it. And you don't have any thoughts about the past or the future. It's just, where am I right now? What am I doing? But then the transformation happened about the philosophy behind the asana and the pranayama. And it all just felt like this groovy recipe for bliss. So that's she's shaking her head, nodding her head. If you're listening to the podcast and not watching the video, because yogis can talk about these stupid stuff and it's not stupid. I'm being sarcastic for freaking hours, people. And we groove it and dig it. But I'm telling you, if you haven't drunk the Kool-Aid yet, get drinking. It is so powerful. So you had this moment. And then what makes you then feel like I want to do this as a lifelong passion and a career, not just, that was fun?
I'll tell you. My second child was born and I went into a very deep depression because I knew that my marriage was not in a good place. However, being raised as I was in a very traditional home, divorce was really something that I think, honestly, I was too afraid to get divorced. And I went into a deep depression when my daughter was born. And I had to stop going to yoga for a while.
Right.
And then after she was born, I was put on antidepressants, and which shocked me because I had always been so healthy. I had never had a need to have anti-anxiety medication. And the thought of being chemically dependent for the rest of my life really struck me. And so as soon as I was able to go back to class, it was amazing. I hadn't gone to class probably for 9 months because I was very sick when I was pregnant. And it was like somebody turned the light back on. And I was able to not only go off the medication. It took several months. It wasn't an instantaneous thing, but I felt immediately better. And what I was noticing was that as the problems were progressing in my marriage and I was trying to make sense of it, because I was taking a lot of the blame myself. Unfortunately, it was a toxic situation. But what helped was every time I went into class, I felt like I was consulting the oracle. It was like one of my mentors would say something that seemed to be answering a question that I hadn't even verbalized. And I realized that I had to make this a part of my life. So that's when I went for yoga teacher training. And I did my first training the summer that my daughter was turning a year old. And it was so profound. I thought, oh, wow, I've just scratched the surface, but not, I've just scratched my surface. I'm just understanding who I am. And I was in my late 30s. So this was such a revelation to me. And the fact that I started to feel so much better just with my whole life, even though I was still in a difficult marriage, I felt so much better that I really started to apply what I was learning on a sort of a psycho, a spiritual and psychological level. And then that was when things turned awful, was when I started to notice signs of trauma in my kids, both my kids. My daughter was born with severe allergies, severe eczema. My son was having behavior issues. And I remember my dad saying one day, because he had witnessed, an argument in my home, and he said, this is going to destroy your son. And that was when I used my practice to really summon the strength. That was when the meditation practice came in, where I realized, in fact, that's how I knew I had to get a divorce. I was sitting in meditation. It was the 1st of January. It was New Year's morning. I went into meditation at 6 a.m. I was feeling so empty. And this mantra came to me. It just came to me out of nowhere. And it's deeply personal, so I don't share the specifics, but it was basically my wake-up call that said, you need to make a change. You need to step up now. And believe it or not, that guidance led me not only through the divorce, but I after my divorce, I shifted my entire life. I packed up my kids. I moved to Greece and not to Athens, with a nice cushy job. I moved to my father's ancestral village. I took big risks because I was led. So I think the practice, it helped me not only, it gave me the strength to change, but then it gave me the tools to heal.
Beautiful. You mentioned the inner work or the spiritual work was a deeper layer, or what we call koshas in the yoga world. So be careful, everyone. Get out your notebook. You're going to learn a lot. So there are these, I always think of it as like either layers of a parfait, right? Where you go from the light fluffy at the top to the sticky stuff at the bottom, you're ever with me? Say there's chocolate or caramel, but it's sticky at the bottom. Whereas at the top, it's very superficial and light and airy. Or I equate it to like in the winter time, you wear so much clothing. All you can see is your eyes and your nose so you can breathe. And when it starts to get warm, if you go inside, you slowly take off the hat, and then the scarf, and then the mittens, and then the jacket. And before you know it, you're like, it's so hot. It's that's what happens to you in a yoga class, where you feel an ability to peel away or let go or surrender all of your extra superfluous, unneeded accoutrements that are just BS and not serving you. So you're down to just being a pile of sweat and DNA on the floor. And for me, it was also learning the yamas and the niyamas, which are in many ways, for anyone that's listening that's Christian, much like the 10 Commandments. And of course, there's 5 and 5, but it's very similar. Don't panic. There's no quiz at the end of this. But the first one is non-harming. And I never knew, I'm like, non-harming, though. The heck is that? Because my whole life had been suck it up, be a trooper, never let them see you sweat. The show must go on, and everything I did was harming to my soul, my body. Everything hurt, like everything, but not in a good way. And it felt so validating to understand that this stuff had been around for 4,000 years and nobody, had just invented this thing. It was like, wow, I should probably listen to this. In fact, over in my little bookcase there, I have a few little deities, and I'm not obsessed by yoga by any means. There are those, I've studied with lots of them where everything they do is eat, sleep, breathe, and yoga. But in my world, everybody knows I'm a mediator. I'm a divorce expert, So I blend those two worlds together where you've got the psychological, mental, emotional, physical, sexual, spiritual side of all of this process, which is very non-harming, right? The layers, all the deeper understanding and the inner knowingness of what makes you tick, which we call svadhyaya or self-study. But on the other side, it's just, money. What do they say? That marriage is about love and divorce is about money. It's usually a little more complicated than that, but so true. So here you are, you make this mind-blowing, life-changing decision to move to Greece. And how old were your children and how did the divorce affect them?
Well, the divorce was very, very difficult for both of them. And I think, again, it was, and this is my focus, is working with women in co-parenting in toxic situations, because the children will feel it. They feel all of it. I was just consulting with a woman who's dreading Thanksgiving, and I said to her, because she's alone with the kids, and I said, well, they're feeling that. So why would you feed them that? If you don't want to cook, you don't cook, right? Order in, do a pajama day, throw some craft paper on the wall and do a mural, do anything besides, doing something that you don't love. So it really did affect my children. And one of the reasons I moved to Greece was because I wanted to give my son space. I felt that the divorce, he was 8 when I filed, and had been diagnosed with all sorts of ADHD and behavior issues. And he was very angry. He was very, very angry. And unfortunately, and I can now, because of my practice, I can say that neither his father nor I, even with my yoga, there were so many lessons I had to learn so that I could take responsibility for my part in all of it. Because I even went to studying archetypes, which is another fascinating spiritual practice. And from that perspective, I said to myself, holy, I can't believe that his dad and we were like two children raising children. We weren't using our inner adults, our inner parents, our inner teachers to support these children. We were really parenting as wounded children ourselves. So for me, Greece was that space where I could really expand into my own healing. And what I tell people all the time is that, as you mentioned, the koshas, those 5 layers of, you need to go through all 5 layers of healing. You need to heal your body. That's why we do therapeutic yoga, right? Because I want you to feel your emotions in where they're trapped in your body. I want you to start feeling your energy centers and start to feel what's happening as you shift your emotions. I want you to feel your mindset shift as we work with your language, because right, language is emotions manifest. If I keep saying, oh gosh, I'm a victim, this is terrible, he screwed me, and abuse is never okay, but he abused me, we can all get lost in that story. And for me, this was, and it helped my children in the same way. It allowed us to create some space so that we could view what had happened from a different lens. And it took time. It took time, which is, I think, mentorship and coaching is so important, because, if you hire a coach, you benefit realizations.
Yes, yes, and yes. Tell us a little bit about what you say the children are not resilient, they are adaptive.
Yeah, so I feel And it's not just me. There's many mental health and trauma specialists now that will verify. One of my favorites is Gabor Mate. But we know that children's brains are forming the first 5 to 7 years. And any type of toxicity, any type of stress, anxiety, dysfunctional co-parenting, dysfunctional family dynamics, the children pick up and really don't know how to process. So I remember people telling me, oh, I'm like, oh, she's so angry. He's so, oh, don't worry. They're resilient. They'll be fine. No, they're not fine. They're not. Their brain is learning to wire, to be vigilant, to be people pleasing, to be fawning, to be frightened, to not feel safe, and to not have healthy attachments to their caregivers. So when I hear people saying, "Oh, well, my child is resilient," my question is, when I say to people, "You need to heal so that you can be the best you can be, so you can raise your child. Oh, my child will be okay." No, it won't. Epidemic child suicide, drug abuse, committed children. I think it's important for parents to heal so that they can maintain that safe environment. At least one parent, like you said, it takes two to tango, two need to play. If one isn't going to play, then the other one needs to be super fortified.
Yes, even in content, functional marriages where, normal, I hate the word normal, but we have to go with it, conflict exists, right? Everybody hopefully is shaking their head, right? That, not all marriages and all the time is there dysfunction. We have little peaks and valleys of good moments, which is typically why many people stay in marriages longer than they perhaps should or feel would be optimal. Well, there's many reasons. We could do a whole show on that, but staying together for the children, societal, cultural differences, financial constraints. I could go on for days on that. But in situations where the marriage is decent, normal, there's going to be conflict, right? And, not all parents agree on everything all the time. We all have a little bit of that, good parent, bad parent syndrome where one parent lets them stay up late and watch movies and eat popcorn on a school night. And the other's like, make your bed, brush your teeth, go to bed, do your homework. It's 8 o'clock. Everyone in bed. Come on. And like kids are like, oh, come on. There's always, but we're not talking about that kind of conflict. We're talking about a much deeper level of covert or manipulative talking behind back, criticizing, verbal abuse, emotional abuse, psychological abuse, financial control, and yes, physical too.
All of them.
All of that, right? There's many different types of control and abuse. So, don't think, oh, my parents used to fight. Well, I don't know anybody whose parents didn't have a fight in their whole life, but we're talking about, right, that the child does absorb that kind of like, ooh, they feel the tension. I remember I could walk in the room, and my sisters are a lot older than I am. So I grew up with different sets of parents, and I didn't really have siblings because they had already graduated high school and left the house by the time I was 7 or 8. So I could walk in a room and just sense that mom and dad were fighting, or I didn't even have to ask. I didn't have to look at them. And there was no one to talk to. It was just them and me. And I remember the fear, the anxiety I felt inside about, I got to be the perfect kid because I got to make them happy, and making their marriage my responsibility. And I'm 7, going, ah. So that I can relate to so much, that children do sense that all the time, and teens too. And I have many clients even who will say to me as they're divorcing, "Oh, my parents got divorced when I was 15 or 20." And they'll go on for an hour about how it affected them. Right. And here we are trying to talk to the couple about their divorce and what they experienced as children, teens, and young adults is still making an impact on them. Now,
Yeah, those wounds play out. Those wounds play out all the way into adulthood. And they really do affect even the way you co-parent. I have so many clients who say to me, I've left. Why is there still so much toxicity? I've left. I'm in my own home. Because your brain is still wiring. It's still firing in that trauma sense. So even though you don't want to engage in a stupid argument with your ex, your brain is going to put you there. You're automatically going to feel unsafe even before the text comes in, because like you said, you sense it. So that's the beauty of the mind body practice, right? The body, the spirit, the energy, the emotions. That's the beauty of bringing it all together, because once mom gets whole, then she's parenting from a very different place. She's not parenting as the wounded solo mom who's overwhelmed and trying to keep it together because the financial abuse was so bad and she should have gotten a better settlement, right? She's parenting from a place of power and a certainty that it's all going to be okay. That's a very different, and then there's space, there's patience for the meltdown. There's I can view my child's pain without connecting to it and feeling hurt myself. I can hold the space for my child, even if my child is an annoying, eye-rolling teenager. Who I love, by the way. I have two. I love them.
All teenagers are annoying. That's their job, everyone, right? If you look up teenager in the dictionary or ask, I can't say it, it'll start talking. The definition of a teenager, it will just be annoying, inconvenient. Yeah. Like testing you more than you thought you could be tested, right? So for those people listening who think you and I are saging the room and, dancing around naked in the, tiptoeing through the tulips, and maybe we'll do those another time. But, how does something like divorce affect your physical health?
Goodness, I wish more people asked me this question. So it does. Our cells are informed by our energy, and your energy is guided by your emotions. This is something that science is proving every single day, as is physics. So what happens? Every time I have a client who says, I had a client one time who said to me, I've just taken so much, I can't swallow this anymore. I said to her, tell me about your throat. And she had this light bulb moment. She said, how did you know that she had developed a thyroid problem? I have women who have been in very narcissistic relationships, abusive relationships. I always ask them, tell me about your gynecological health. Anytime you feel violated and disrespected in that sense, women develop fibroids, tumors, cancers. So any of the emotions that we repress, that we don't release, and this is where the therapeutic yoga comes in, where we will work those parts of the body so that we can get to those deeply subconscious emotions, and we'll release the blocked energy. I know this is getting a little wooey, but it's truth. I noticed it in my own life. I developed a fibroid. Where? In my uterus, of course. Because what is our uterus, right? It is in Greek, the word for the pelvic bowl is iero, which means holy, like altar, it's the cradle of life, right? This is where we cradle new life and bring it forth and manifest new life. So what did I do? I was so terrified to start over. I developed a blockage right at the center of the energy source of where I create. right? It's the same energy that makes babies, makes businesses, makes business decisions, it creates, makes works of art. And I had gone to a bunch of doctors that said to me, oh, you really should have a hysterectomy, blah, 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 blah. And I said, you know what? I know better than this. So I started to really work on my second chakra. And I sent so much love, and I did the meditations and I did therapy. And within 6 months, I went back to the doctor and we did another scan and it was gone. It was
Mm-hmm.
completely gone. So I thought, okay, well,
There's
I
something
guess
to this. Yeah.
I guess there's something. So my point is, it's not just about giving it time until you accept what happened and still hold on to the resentment, because that resentment is going to eat you alive. The
Yeah.
grief will cause a problem with your breathing in your lungs. The anger will stay in your liver. The toxicity will hurt your kidneys eventually. Eventually.
Oh.
Why do 80% of women have constipation issues? It's from holding all of that stuff in.
Yes. I have a casual conversation with everyone I meet when they first meet me, whether they're really out in the contemplating world of way before they're ready to do anything. But 70% of divorces filed by women, and 2 years is the average amount of time women contemplate divorce internally in their brain and their mind before they tell anyone. And that is when things start to rear their ugly head in the physical body. I can relate because at the very young age of 5, I had an underbite and they started to put me on a retainer, and I had some intense orthodontia work from 5 to 21. Long story, very long, or it's amazing. I have teeth. Root canal. It's called resorption. Resorption is when the tooth rots from the inside out, not the outside in. It's very rare. Tonsils, had to take those babies out. I have TMJ. So my jaw clicks. I had nodules on my vocal cords from screaming for 21 years, 5, 6, 7, 8 at teenagers over loud music. Cold sores, you name it. If it's somewhere between the brain and the throat, I've had it in here. And I know it's from being told to stay quiet.
Yep. That's exactly
I
it.
was not allowed to speak. I wasn't allowed to ask questions anytime I was provocative verbally. And, I'm such a questioner. Why do you think I love interviewing people? But I'm curious, right? I'm a very curious person, and I wasn't allowed to be curious. So I didn't talk, and I never smiled. So now, of course, you can't shut me up, Kathy, so think about it. What is it in your body? For her, it was the uterine, fibroids. And for me, it was nose, ear, and throat. Haven't done the eyes yet, but something in here. It's going to manifest somewhere in your body. So on my intake form, I do ask about any physical ailments. And there's such a common theme. I see it all the time. Now, depending on the work, we don't get into it too much, but it does help me understand where they are on their journey. It's very important. So understand too that there are many different types of asana. You've got what we were talking about earlier, the Ashtanga, as she mentioned, which is from a long lineage, and all the way to Yin. I'm going A to Y. There isn't a Z yet. There is no Zumba yoga yet, but that I know of. I don't know if there's a Z brand yet. Somebody needs to invent one. America, we brand water, for God's sake. But anyway, so don't worry so much about the asana, what type of yoga it is. So if you go to a yoga class and you hate it, it might be the wrong style of yoga for you. That has to do with your dosha. You're either air, fire, or earth. So experiment, go to a different kind, try something different. It's like kind of like food, like going to a buffet. Try a few different things. If you don't like that studio, fine. Go to another one, try a different teacher. But there's also something called yoga therapy. And try to find a yoga therapist who is trained and just doesn't call themselves, oh, I do yoga therapy. Make sure you do your homework on that one, everyone. So it's important. It is standing on your head for an hour. It does not make you a yoga therapist. So anyway, not saying that if you do that, then you can't be, but it's a very nuanced field in the it's where psychology meets biology, and
It's
then
a
you're
lot
able to heal that. So,
it's a lot less about it's a lot more about how you feel in the form than being exact in the form. And it is form specific based on the energy that you need to release. So there is an art to it and a science to it, but it can be life changing. So I do recommend yoga therapy for anyone that wants to move into this realm of therapeutics.
It's very effective. It does take a little time. You have to be patient, but it's very long lasting. Now, for the time we have left, Kathy, can you give a few examples of some inner practices that help bring clarity for growth and easy ways to start these practices? Because I know for many it's intimidating.
It is the one thing that every person that walks through my door or gets on my phone says to me is, oh, I've tried meditating. It doesn't work. And I think the word meditation can be very intimidating. I think starting a 5 minute daily contemplative practice and a gratitude practice is one of the most wonderful places to start because you can do anything for 10 minutes in the morning. And I do it as soon as I open my eyes. I lay a hand on my heart and I think how grateful I am to be alive because I had a 37-year-old cousin who went to sleep and never woke up, and we still don't know why, right? We can't take it for granted. And just to take those 5 minutes to just connect with the energy around you, just be. I know that sounds, when I say just be, it sounds rather simple. I like to have a little meditative music in the background just because it allows me to connect with spirit, with just a higher power. And it gives me that space first thing in the morning where I don't allow my phone, my email, my texts, the news, which is so tragic these days, to hijack my brain to what is available. And I can't remember the author, but there was an author several years ago who wrote a book about the 4% universe, right? That everything we see, feel, hear, what we sense, what we know is only 4% of what's out there. And that includes us, that we are only experiencing physically 4% of our being. That's where those 5 koshas come to play, right? We're only seeing the teeny tiny tip of the iceberg. So take those 5 minutes to connect with that 96% of you. 5 minutes goes to 6, goes to 8, and get a mentor to help you learn to do these practices. Minutes a day will change your life.
Mm. I love it. For me, it helped to surround myself with inspirational thoughts, poetry, music, art, practices, people. I was an insatiable, chronic, constant learner. Uh, if I turned my camera and opened that closet, all these ridiculous amount of books would fall on the floor. I've read them all. I taught 200, 300, 500 prenatal children's and aerial yoga teacher trainings for a decade. So I was always walking my walk. I was one of those teachers when I was teaching yoga teacher trainings. I don't do it anymore. Don't panic, everyone. That I couldn't ask someone to read something and study it and do it if I hadn't experienced it myself. Surround yourself with whatever brings you joy. There is so much negativity in the world. And anyway, just, welcome to being human. But when you add divorce to the cesspool, the swimming pool of toxicity, right? It gets even worse. So make sure that you have something that's uplifting, a friend, even if it's one. I used to listen to devotional music, and Deborah Pamal got me through my,
Oh, I love
Garich and
it.
all kinds of other, and I would just listen to this devotional or just instrumental music. Didn't even have to be any kirtan or mantra or anything too heavy. And it would change my energy, lift my vibration, and make me feel more positive about
Yeah,
everything. And when I got to the
gospel,
court,
Gregorian chants.
yes, whatever makes you happy. Gregorian chant music I love that music. It's beautiful. And when I got to court, I would hold a little stone in my hand and just feel the smoothness of it. I always have to have something to keep my hands busy when I want to say something and I know I shouldn't. And my lawyer would always wear a tie with little fish on it. They looked like polka dots from far away, but when I was close to him, and anytime I was tempted to open my mouth, he would take his finger and point to his tie. And that was his way of saying, Paulette, when do the fish get in trouble? When they open their mouth, right? He'd do this with his finger with the hook. And I go,
Got it.
oh yeah. So those little like reminders, whether it has to be something tangible, like a rock or a stone or something visual where it's an inspirational quote. One of my favorites is right over there. It says, I was going to do something to change the world today, but something sparkly caught my eye.
I love that.
Whatever makes you happy. I've got them all over the place. She designed a life she loved. Have a mind that is open to everything and attached to nothing. Be better than you were yesterday. Keep every stone they throw at you. You have castles to build, and you are exactly where you need to be. I fill myself with inspiration and love and art and beauty every day. And if you live in the concrete jungle, make your little bedroom your sanctuary. You can have a little altar in your bedroom. Make your nightstand something beautiful. And decluttering was like my new mantra of releasing myself from all the junk and the clutter that I didn't need anymore. It's very, freeing to have the space that you're in be free of clutter. Then your mind is less cluttered and your heart is less cluttered and your body feels better. I'm so glad we had this conversation. And everybody, also Kathy does retreats in Greece. And I believe that one of my next retreats will be in Greece with Kathy. Because
That would be
you all
lovely.
know that my next one is in Belize, May 4th to the 10th. And there are only 4 spots left out of 16. So you may hear this after Thanksgiving because I believe it will air on Sunday, the 26th. So I may have already missed being able to wish you all a very blessed Thanksgiving. And if you don't eat turkey or, mashed potatoes and all that, just do your thing, right? Make it all, just surround yourself with inspiration and positivity. So if it's already past Thanksgiving and it's Sunday, the 26th, know that it's still the end of the year is coming. And most people who are thinking about divorce want to wait until Thanksgiving is over, Christmas is over, and New Year's is over. And my phone goes insane January 2nd. Now, Black Friday to Cyber Monday, I'm offering 50% off for only 5 new clients, one-on-one for unlimited. And I mean unlimited, a month's worth of coaching. So don't miss out because I am so busy. Once people put the Christmas tree back in the attic and all the Santas go back in their boxes, watch out. It's 2024. It's the year of you. And it's time for you to prioritize your soul, your body, your heart, your mind. And if this conversation has not inspired you, I don't know what will, besides coming on a retreat with Kathy and I in Greece in 2025. So if I don't see you in 2024 in Belize, Kathy, tell everybody the best way to learn about you, to follow you, to get to know you, and learn more about your genius.
Oh, thank you. So you can find me on Facebook under Kathy Casa Coaching. Instagram is my business page at Yoga Dynamis. And my website, www.kathycasayogadynamis.com.
And it's Casa, cat like a house,
Like
C-A-S,
one house.
right? And Yoga Dynamis, Dynamis. So
Correct.
correct. We want to make sure we get our spelling right. It'll all be in the show notes, but if you're listening, you can go there. So one last takeaway and key gem for anyone out there just at a place of, is this ever going to end? Am I ever going to feel healthy again? How do I reclaim my best self and live my best life? Because I've been through hell and I'm done walking through the fire.
I've got it. I've got it. Put this on a card, on big old card, paste it everywhere you look. And it is the following question. How is this working out for me? How is this working for my benefit? Because I promise, I have not had an answer to this question that wasn't positive. There is always, always, always a gold nugget, a silver lining, a blessing, a lesson, an opportunity, a push in a better direction. There's always a gift. So always ask yourself that when you're at your darkest moment, and that will be your gift.
Amen. Namaste. It's all a
Stay.
blessing. So happy Thanksgiving to you. And it's just such an honor to have this platform that I started crazy enough 5 years ago. Hard to believe, on a dare from my old friend Elizabeth back in Boston. All the blessings to everybody. I'm excited for 2024. So many wonderful things are coming. If you haven't checked out my updated, rebranded website, betterdivorceacademy.com, it looks a lot different than it used to. Lots of great things. I'm doing so much more speaking, educating, and the book and workbook is now an audiobook. And in January, the online course will be ready. So don't let anyone you know and love struggle. Make sure you and those you love get the help that they deserve, that they need, whether they're looking for private mediation services so they have no plaintiff, no defendant, no lawsuit, and no court, or I've got a divorce coach with them. I always say I'd get divorced for you if I could, because I'm really good at it, but it's not legal. So I'm going to get divorced with you, and take it from two people who've been there out the back end and found the joy in the future. It is there. Trust me. Let me help you. So to those who remember my old sign off, keep thriving in the chaos, but remember, it's got to be better. Until next time. Thank you.